That night, 12 assassins broke into John Wick's house. It was no surprise what fate awaited them. A very cool and impressive move. When Vigo found out, he went straight to the church. John was waiting above for a while. At that moment, he took the gun and began to massacre the enemy. When he was in the midst of continuously killing, he suddenly passed out after being hit by a car. When he woke up, he found himself tied to a chair by Vigo. He shouted in anger because the thing he had just set fire to not only had money, but also evidence to blackmail his colleagues. John, who didn't care, shouted loudly to hand over his son if he didn't want everything to be destroyed. Vigo's henchmen used plastic bags to try to kill him, but they were unexpectedly shot dead by Michael outside. John took the opportunity to fight the remaining one. After cutting the ropes, he rushed out and used his gun to stop Vigo's car. To save his own life, Vigo revealed the location of his son. To get John to give up his revenge, Vigo said that there were many assassins waiting there. But John didn't care and left. Here, the group of assassins equipped with weapons were waiting for John Wick, while Jimmy was still sitting there unaware that the Grim Reaper was coming. Suddenly, a shot was fired and killed his friend. Outside, John continuously killed the remaining ones with his gun. Now, he could finally kill this miserable guy to avenge his dog. After taking revenge, he turned and walked away without looking back. However, the story was not over yet. When Vigo found out that his son had died, he prepared for revenge. The first person he caught was Michael, who had saved John many times. Believing that Michael was the cause of his son's death, he was tortured brutally. Then Vigo called John to tell him that Michael was the one who betrayed him. When he was released, he killed 2 henchmen, but unexpectedly, a female assassin appeared and ended his life. John Wick was on his way to hide, but turned back to seek revenge for his friend. As she violated the rules of the Continental Hotel, Director Winston had his men kill her, and the owner of the funeral team had more work to do.
commences in New York City, where John Wick, Keanu Reeves, and his loyal pit bull find refuge with the Bowery King, Lawrence Fishburne. Inside, John punches a board until his knuckles bleed, and BK enters to inquire if he's prepared to confront the High Table. John simply responds with a firm yes. Subsequently, John travels to Morocco, where he pursues horseback riding men working for the Elder, George Georgiou. After dispatching them, John confronts the Elder to retrieve his ring, only to learn that it's no longer in his possession. Undeterred, John proceeds to eliminate the Elder before leaving. Returning to New York, Winston, Ian McShane, and Karen, Lance Reddick, receive a summons from the Harbinger, Clancy Brown, to meet the Marquis de Gramont, Bill Skarsgård, an emissary of the High Table. The Marquis chastises Winston for failing to kill John, leading to the condemnation and destruction of the New York Continental. Winston is now declared excommunicado, and to add to the pain, the Marquis shoots Karen in the chest. Winston stays by Karen's side as he dies, and to add to the pain, the Marquis shoots Karen in the chest. Winston stays by Karen's side as he dies, expressing remorse, believing it should have been him. In Paris, a blind assassin named Kane, Donnie Yen, stands in the park while his daughter Mia, Amy Kwan, plays the violin. The Marquis summons Kane and threatens Mia's life if he refuses to obey the High Table's orders to go after John. John proceeds to the Osaka Continental, managed by his old friend Shimazu Koji, Hiroyuki Sanada, where his daughter Akira, Rina Sawayama, serves as the concierge. Koji meets John on the roof and agrees to provide him with secret sanctuary, though Akira is wary of John's presence. Soon, the Marquis's right-hand man, Chidi, Marco Zaror, arrives with a hit squad to lure John out. Koji's men confront the High Table assassins by firing arrows into the darkness. When the hitmen reach the roof, John arms himself and springs into action. Amid the ensuing chaos, Kane joins the fray, setting up traps to track his targets before eliminating them with his sword and gun. Akira also joins the fight and manages to take down some of Chidi's men, but she ends up getting shot and injured. Aids her in Koji's escape while he continues to fight more adversaries, expertly wielding a pair of nunchucks. Eventually, John encounters Kane, and although they were once friends, Kane reluctantly pursues John for the sake of his daughter Mia. They briefly engage in combat before John successfully evades Kane. In the midst of the gunfight, a tracker named Mr. Nobody, Shamir Anderson, and his German shepherd intervene, eliminating some of the gunmen targeting John. Mr. Nobody wants the contract on John's head as well, but he finds the current hit of $20 million insufficient, so he's temporarily aiding John. As Koji and Akira make their escape, they encounter Kane, and a sword duel ensues between him and Koji, who are old friends. Koji refuses to let Kane pursue John, leading to a fierce battle. Although it seems Koji may leave the confrontation, he continues fighting until Kane delivers a fatal blow. Akira cradles her father's body as he dies and attempts to take his sword to avenge him, but Kane advises her against it. Kane advises her against it, to prevent her from sharing the same fate as her father. He assures her that they will meet again. Later, Akira finds John at the train station and blames him for her father's death, issuing an ultimatum: kill Kane, or face her wrath. Winston meets with Bowery King as they both realize that their proximity to John makes them targets. Meanwhile, the Harbinger discusses the unnecessary bloodshed at the Osaka Continental with the Marquis, who justifies it as necessary to not only kill John Wick but also to shatter the myth of him being untouchable and invincible. Mr. Nobody then visits the Marquis, demanding a $23 million contract for killing John. The Marquis responds by impaling Mr. Nobody's hand and forcing him to choose between removing the knife or his hand, testing his determination. Mr. Nobody pulls his hand out, cutting between his fingers, and the Marquis agrees to honor his request. John meets Winston at Karen's tomb to offer his condolences for the loss of his friend. Winston seeks revenge against the Marquis and suggests that John can win his freedom from the High Table by challenging the Marquis to a duel, even though such High Table duels were believed to be mythical. John's only potential allies in this endeavor are his family, but the Ruska Roma severed ties with him and tore his ticket. With no other recourse, John agrees to seek them out. John travels to the Ruska Roma in Berlin, where he is met with a shotgun blast from the priest, leaving him bound with a noose around his neck. Katya Natalia Tena, John's adoptive sister, confronts him angrily, blaming him for the elder's death, which resulted in the Marquis ordering the execution of her father, Pyotr, who would have supported John in the duel. John offers to help Katya redeem himself, and she tasks him with avenging her father by going after a German high table member named Kila, Scott Atkins, the man responsible for her father's death. John locates Kila's nightclub where Kane and Mr. Nobody have also tracked him down. The trio engages in a card game with Kila, who cheats and then sends his men after them. While Kane and Mr. Nobody hold their ground against the thugs, John confronts Kila throughout the club without alerting the oblivious clubgoers. John uses a card to slash Kila's neck and engages him in a fierce fight, with Kila employing his size and strength against John. Kila's men pursue John, but they meet predictable, bloody ends. Despite Kila's attempt to push John over a balcony, it fails to stop him. John corners Kila, causing him to tumble down a stairway to his death. John takes one of Kila's gold teeth as proof and presents it to Katya, who reacts with approval and assists John in the ceremony where he is branded with the family crest and given support for the duel. Winston visits the Marquis with the official challenge document from John for the duel. The Marquis attempts to refuse, but Winston reminds him that he remains bound by the High Table's customs and must comply. Furthermore, Winston demands that if John emerges victorious, Winston should no longer be excommunicado, and the New York Continental should be uncondemned and rebuilt with his management reinstated. Is victorious, Winston should no longer be excommunicado, and the New York Continental should be uncondemned and rebuilt with his management reinstated. However, the Marquis reminds Winston that he will be John's second, meaning that if John dies, Winston will suffer the same fate. At the appointed time, John meets with the Marquis at the Sacré-Cœur in Paris, presided over by the Harbinger to discuss the duel's conditions. They will duel with guns at sunrise, and failure to appear before the deadline will result in an automatic forfeiture and grounds for execution. Kane serves as the Marquis's second and agrees to free himself and his daughter if he succeeds in killing John. John visits a church to pay tribute to Helen, Bridget Moynihan. Kane joins him there and speaks to him amicably, revealing the stakes and what John stands to lose. Later, John meets with Winston and Bowery King, with the latter presenting him with a new gun and bulletproof suit. The Harbinger reminds the Marquis of the consequences within the High Table if he is killed by John. To ensure that John doesn't make it to the Sacré-Cœur on time, the Marquis dispatches Chidi and his thugs to go after him, listening assassins that there's a bounty on John, inviting them to kill him before sunrise. Amidst the relentless pursuit, John faces scores of assassins, engaging in gunfights and confrontations in the streets, including the traffic around the Arc de Triomphe. He enters a warehouse filled with adversaries and employs explosive rounds to take them down. Meanwhile, Nobody aids in eliminating some assassins and contacts the Marquis, demanding a higher payment. The Marquis agrees to a $40 million contract, attracting more desperate and doomed hitmen. Finally, just moments before sunrise, John arrives at the steps leading up to the Sacré-Cœur, eliminating several more assassins before encountering Chidi, who knocks him all the way back down the steps. Kane appears to assist John in reaching the top, helping him eliminate Chidi's men. Nobody also arrives, fighting Chidi for his actions against the dog, but Nobody's dog is unharmed. With John's assistance, Chidi meets his end, area before Nobody delivers a fatal shot to his head. As a final humiliation, the dog urinates on Chidi's face. In the end, John reaches the summit just in time for the sunrise. He and Kane prepare for an old-fashioned duel, each managing to shoot the other twice. On the third round, Kane shoots John in the gut, but John refrains from firing back. The Marquis orders him to deliver the coup de grace and take pride in being the one to kill John Wick. However, Winston interjects, calling the Marquis an arrogant fool and reminding him that John didn't fire his last round. The Marquis realizes his mistake too late as John kills him in a swift and final act. The Harbinger declares that both John and Kane are now free from their obligations to the High Table. John descends the steps and, before slumping over, briefly thinks of Helen, uttering her name. Thus, John Wick dies as a free man. Winston and Bowery King bury John next to Helen, honoring his request for his tombstone to read "Loving Husband." Bowery King asks Winston whether he believes John is in heaven or hell, to which Winston replies, "Who knows?" The two walk away and Bowery King continues to look after John's faithful dog.